Tell me about your immediate family prior to pregnancy loss.
My immediate family was my husband, who's my college sweetheart. We met at Texas Tech. Um, oh my gosh, it's been 21 years. At the time, it'd been close to 20 years. And my son, Cameron, who was, I want to say 3 at the time.
How'd you find out you were pregnant?
I had a funny feeling and suspected that I might be pregnant. And on Christmas Day, for the first pregnancy loss, I decided to go ahead and take a pregnancy test. And sure enough, it came back positive. And my husband was still asleep, but I woke him up and I said, "Merry Christmas, we're having another kid."
How'd you tell your son?
We didn't tell our son yet. I just wanted to be, safe about knowing that, hey, this is going to be okay.
Did you tell anybody?
We did tell our parents after the between the 8th and the 9th week for the first pregnancy. With the second pregnancy, we thought we were much further along by the time I found out. I switched healthcare. I'd left Obamacare and we were waiting to put myself on or add me to my husband's child care healthcare. And so I ended up having to go to a clinic, and they told me there that I was 12 weeks along, which really wasn't the case once we eventually found out that I wasn't going to have that child. So, but yes, both sets of parents were told both times. Both sets of parents were extremely happy again. And, we didn't chatter much around my son, but, we talked about it often whenever we had the chance.
Did you know something was wrong?
Yes, for both pregnancy losses, I did know that something was wrong. It was almost like deja vu with the second one. But with the first one, I was at home working, just sitting at my computer desk, typing away. And all of a sudden, I felt like a tug on my heart. Well, that felt weird. But, I didn't think anything of it and kept working. And then all of a sudden, I got up and I noticed that I was spotting. And so I went to the restroom and blood just started pouring. And so, of course, I'm panicking at this point. And I called my husband. I told him, "Hey, I'm spotting. I don't know what's going on here." And he was like, "Well, call the doctor." And so, I called the doctor, couldn't get an answer. So I went to the clinic that was nearby, and, I'm just sitting in the waiting room, waiting, hoping, praying that everything was okay. And my husband told me he would meet me up at the place where I ended up at. And, they brought me in, and the doctor came in. She, checked me out, and she did the ultrasound, and she said there's not a heartbeat. And I remember looking at the screen when she said that, and at my baby, who was without a heartbeat anymore, and it was just the end for me. I felt a little bit numb at that point, but she said a bunch of other things that sounded like blah, 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 blah to me after she said heartbeat, right? And then as I'm walking out, my husband's there, and I see him, I immediately began to cry. And, we both just had that moment. And he had my son in the car. We both had separate cars at the time because, I got there first and he followed up. I just remember just feeling so helpless and sitting in the parking lot just bawling because, this is never the way you expect a pregnancy to end for you. You always think the happy path. Nobody talks about the sad path, right? So, you never think that that's going to be you. You're just at a loss thinking, how the heck did I end up here? Like, this wasn't a part of the plan. And so it was just a long moment of silence and wailing and crying because it was just a state of shock. I couldn't believe that this is where we were with this. Even with the second pregnancy loss, a few months later, I got pregnant again, and it was the same situation. I work from home, and so I'm doing my thing. I'm working, and I get up again, and sure enough, I'm spotting again, and I'm like, hey, I've got spotting again. And so I go to the clinic again, and this time they tell me when they do the ultrasound that they don't really hear anything or see much, and like the structures aren't totally formed. And they asked me how far along I was. I was like, well, I'm around 12 weeks. And they were like, well, no, this doesn't look like 12 weeks. And it doesn't look like everything properly formed because we don't see the normal structures at, that point in time. So they confirmed that, there wasn't much of a baby there, but that, it would have to flow through the same type of discharge that the first one did. And the first one, by the way, was very traumatic because I didn't know what to expect, right? Nobody knows what to expect or how you go from having a baby to no longer having a baby. So the doctor gave me two options. She said, you can either have a D&C at the hospital, or you could just go home and, pass it naturally. The most you'll experience is some heavy bleeding and you'll be fine. So, the going home option seemed great to me because I didn't feel like going anywhere else, right? And it didn't seem like it would be extremely hard for anyone, more than, comparable to menstrual bleeding. So that's what I did. I went home, got up the next morning, started going to work. I actually had to meet a client at their facility, and so I went there, had the consultation, did all of those things, and as it was time to go pick up my son, I just started, like, a lot of blood started falling. Like, it was a lot. It was more than a heavy period. It was clotting. It was just a lot. And so, I excused myself and I left. I told myself, okay, I can make it to go get my son and go home and let this pass, right? So I go to get my son, and I picked him up successfully, but as I'm leaving the parking lot, I am starting to feel very lightheaded and woozy, and so I exited the school's parking lot and then immediately turned into a restaurant parking lot. And I remember kind of blacking out for a moment and then coming back to. I called my husband, and he was like, well, call 911, and I'll meet you wherever, or at the closest hospital where you were. And fortunately, after calling 911, I was like right next to a fire department. They came and along with an ambulance, and they took me to the nearest hospital, which fortunately happened to be like 5 minutes away. And I was admitted there, low on all kinds of fluids. And I'm just thankful that, my husband decided to say, hey, go get help, because my plan was to go home and just ride this out, and who knows where I would have been.
After your losses, when did you realize you needed help?
After the first loss, I just, because we didn't tell a lot of people outside of our immediate family, I just decided, hey, I'm just going to put my head down, go to work, continue doing what I'm doing. I was, slightly sad, but I didn't feel like it was anything that I couldn't handle. But that second loss, because, that one we actually tried for, and it hit me in a different way, absolutely and totally, in a way where I would find myself lying in bed and just feel the tears flowing because, I didn't know how to deal with this. after that second pregnancy, I was also told you're infertile. And that just kind of leaves you at a place where, well, wow, I'm not good enough to have a kid anymore. What's happening here? After the first pregnancy, I did seek some therapy through a recommended person. And, those first few sessions did help a lot with me being able to express my emotions about what happened. I did bring my husband with me to those sessions. And we both got to hear, both sides of what happened during that loss. And it did help our bond because, we realized how much we were there for each other. But, after those first few sessions, it just didn't really help much more. So we stopped. And then I knew that after the second one that I was spiraling into depression, and that type of therapy that we were doing before was not going to help this time. By this time, I'd reached out to my friend Jessica, and I said, hey, we need to, make this type of loss more aware. And so we started doing research about, what's currently out there to help. And so she gave me this list that she was given at the hospital of support groups. And I said, okay, well, I'll go check one of these out for research purposes, just so we can figure out how we're going to help people. And that support group changed my life. I met so many different people that were in my same situation. And they had different stories, but they experienced the same thing, the loss of a child. And it was just comforting to be able to talk to them because they knew what it was like to go through that versus someone who's just, empathetic for you, or, because they're your friend, they're going to listen. I had a great group of supportive friends, though, to the people that I did open up to, and I'm truly thankful for that, right? But it just didn't strike them the same way that telling someone who's gone through this and walked through that path of a similar timeline, with the recent loss did. And so it was just so helpful to experience that small group setting at Bo's place, where we made connections and bonds that are still going on outside of that 7-week period. And I'm just truly thankful for that experience.
What items did you bring today?
I brought 2 things. So I'm an introvert, and when I lost my first baby, nobody knew that I was pregnant outside my immediate family and a couple of friends that I told, right? So I'm not going to go around sharing my story of one, hey, I was pregnant. Oh, and by the way, I lost the baby. So I just journaled, and, I talked to my baby, and, I saved the sonograms, and, I told them about, what they meant to us. And then when I had the Bo's Place experience, we made a keepsake and a memory box that I still have with me, and I sit it on my shelf and pull it down every now and again to reflect on things. But some of the items in here are, pictures of the rest of my support group, things that make me smile. The picture of our last session that day at Bo's Place. And then, when I got pregnant again, my friend Jessica was also pregnant at the same time. And, getting her pregnancy announcement and the thank you cards. And, my friend Emily also had another child, and I just put happy moments in here, just to, remind me that I'm surrounded by people that truly care for me and truly, support the journey that we're going on post-pregnancy loss. And so there are happy things in here, as well as some of the things that we did in the sessions that I just, open every now and again and take a look at, just to remember.
What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who just experienced this type of loss?
Just know that you are not alone in this. Pregnancy loss is more common than you think. And it's really unfortunate that you don't find out about a community of other women that have gone through it, of resources that can help you should you experience this until it actually happens to you, because you're thinking, hey, this isn't happening to anyone else. You're suffering silently because you don't know how to express what it is that you're going through. So just know that you're not alone in this. There are people there to help you. Missing Pieces Support Group wants to help you when you're ready. And, if you know someone that's going through this, let them know you're not alone.